Hello everyone, this is Sameswar here, and in today's session we are going to discuss about the first prose from your textbook, The Best Advice I Ever Had, which is written by Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit. So before we start the chapter, we are going to do an warm-up activity, and that is identify the following great personality. So now on your screen, children, there are some pictures. So you have to identify who these personalities are who have really contributed in freedom struggle of our nation. So these women are equally participated in our freedom struggle as equally to the men. So the first name is Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, the first women president of the UN General Assembly. The second one is Fatima Bibi, the first women judge of the Supreme Court of India. Third one is Kiran Bedi, the first women IPS officer of India. Fourth one is Pratibha Patil, the first women president of India. Next one is Indira Gandhi, the first women prime minister of India. Next one is Sarojini Naidu, the first women governor in India. So before we start the chapter, we have to know that from where this chapter came into a textbook, what is the reference of this lesson. So children, the lesson given below is an article written by Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, one of the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's sister. She wrote it for the Reader's Digest, a monthly magazine, when she was High Commissioner for India in the United Kingdom. So before this lesson publishing in your textbook, she wrote it for the monthly magazine, the magazine which is going to be published once in a month, that is called as a monthly magazine. So she has written an article for the Reader's Digest called, for that monthly magazine she has written this chapter, and later it comes to your textbook. So before we start the lesson, we have to know that a brief introduction about Vijaylaxmi Pandit. Who is Vijaylaxmi Pandit is? So children, Vijaylaxmi Pandit Swarup Kumari Nehru was born on August 18, 1900 in Allahabad. She was an Indian political leader and diplomat, one of the world's leading women in public life in the 20th century. So Vijaylaxmi Pandit was born on 18th of August 1900 at Allahabad. She was an Indian political leader. Before we heard that politics would be joined by only men. But at that time, Vijaylaxmi Pandit was also a political leader and a diplomat also. After that, one of the world's leading women in public life in 20th century. So now children, we are staying into the 21st century. But before that, in 20th century, women were not given more importance into the outdoor work. So at that time also, the women's like Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, they came out of the home and started doing the equal work as men. She was the daughter of Motilal Nehru, a wealthy and an aristocratic nationalist leader, and the sister of Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister of independent India. As you know, Vijaylaxmi Pandit is none other than she is the sister of our first prime minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and the daughter of Motilal Nehru, who belongs to a wealthy family. In 1921, after receiving a private education in India and abroad, she married Ranjit Sitaram Pandit. She has completed her education, elementary education in India, and for the further education she went for abroad also. After the completion of her education, she got married with Ranjit Sitaram Pandit. In her family's tradition, she became an active worker in the Indian nationalist movement and was imprisoned 3 times by the British authorities. As you know children, during the time of 20th century or the before 20th century, where in India there was a rule of British government. If any Indian person or any Indian leader who tries to break the laws which were meant by the British government, or somebody tries to go against the British government or their norms, the British government used to put them into the prison. So similarly, that incident was also happened with the Vijaylaxmi Pandit, that she was also imprisoned by the British government not once but 3 times. She was entered municipal government in Allahabad, Western India before entering the Legislative Assembly of United Province, later Uttar Pradesh, and becoming the Minister of Local Self-Government and the Public Health in 1937-39, the first Indian woman who hold the cabinet portfolio. So Vijaylaxmi Pandit becomes the first woman who hold a cabinet portfolio. In 1953, Pandit became the first woman to be elected President of UN General Assembly. From 1954 to 1961, she was Indian High Commissioner, Ambassador in London and currently Ambassador to Dublin. She served as a Governor of the state of Maharashtra from the 1962 to 1964, and from 1964 to 1968 she was a member of the Indian Lok Sabha Parliament, representing to the constituency formerly represented by the Jawaharlal Nehru. As she belongs to a political family, she indulges herself into the all political activities. She went against the British government. She strongly believed in her politics and she was a very good diplomat. So she did all the activities which were done by her family members for the nation. So this was a brief introduction of Vijaylaxmi Pandit. So not wasting more time, so we will start the lesson. So the first paragraph, the best advice I ever had came from one of the greatest souls of the world has ever known, Mahatma Gandhi, on a sunny afternoon a decade ago. So decade means 10 years, children. So in this chapter, the best advice what Miss Vijaylaxmi got, that is came from none other than a greatest soul which the world known, that is Mahatma Gandhi. So in this lesson we knew that the best advice which she had, that is told by not somebody else, not by somebody else, that is told by Mahatma Gandhi ji himself. So look into the second paragraph, children. Most people pass through a period of an anguish when their belief in humanity is at low ebb. I was in such a period. My husband had recently died. My deep sorrow over his loss was followed by the humiliating realization that in the eyes of Indian law, I had no individual existence along with other Indian women. I had participated for years with men in the national struggle for our freedom, working and suffering side by side with them until it had finally been achieved. Yet, in law, we women were still recognized only through our relationship to men. So children, in this paragraph, Vijaylaxmi Pandit was trying to say that most people pass through a period of an anguish. Their belief in humanity is at low ebb. So children, Vijaylaxmi Pandit is telling that in our life, sometimes a kind of a time will also come. In that time, we feel very low, we feel very helpless, we feel very annoying, and we feel very sad and alone. So that was also a period, that was also a time came into Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit's life when she was feeling totally helpless and alone. She tells that I was in such a period, my husband had recently died. So now children, try to understand that how a woman feels when her husband dies. Her husband was died, that's why she was feeling too lonely, disappointed and unhappy. My deep sorrow over his loss was followed by humiliating realization that in the eyes of Indian law, I had no individual existence. So when the death of her Vijaylaxmi Pandit was happened, so at that time she was started feeling humiliating and ignored, because she believes that in the law of India, or the Indian law believes that the woman is going to be only respected when her husband is alive. If any woman is in a relationship with her husband, or her husband is alive, then only she is going to be respected by the society. Or else the widow women are not going to be respected as other women in a society. So that was one of the cruel situation of that time in which Vijaylaxmi Pandit was stuck. So that's why she was feeling very helpless and alone. She tells that along with other Indian women, I had participated for years with men in national struggle for freedom. She tells that in that situation also, when she knows that her husband was died and society is not going to be accept her as a common woman, then also without caring all these things, she had participated into the national struggle belongs with other women's, working and suffering side by side with them until it had finally been achieved. So she was not thinking about that what people will say, what the society will think about me, what I have to do. So the only thing which was there in her mind that I have to do something for my nation, I have to do something for my country. That one thought was there in her mind, and she was participating into the all activities which other peoples were doing for the making country strong, for making country proud, and for making the India free from the clutches of the Britishers. But then also she strongly believed that yet in law we women were still recognized by only through a relationship to men. So she believes that a woman can do anything, a woman can achieve anything, but after her achievements, but after her doing all the work, the society is not going to be praise her at all, because she is not in a relationship with the men. Relationship with the men means her husband is died. Due to that, she was feeling very helpless and alone. Okay children, now next look into the paragraph. So now what Vijaylaxmi Pandit tells is, now as a widow without a son, I was not entitled to any share of family property, nor were my two daughters. I resented this galling position. I was bitter towards those members of my family who support this antiquated law. So Vijaylaxmi Pandit telling that now as a widow means the woman whose husband is died, that woman is called as a widow. So she tells that now as a widow without a son, I was not entitled to any share of the family property. She thinks that my husband was died, it's okay, but at least my family members should support me financially. But she believes that just because she's not having son, her family members were also not entitled her any share of family property, nor were my two daughters. She don't have a son, but she has two daughters. But having two daughters, then also her family members were not given her a share in her family property. I resented this galling position, and she was literally disappointed with this system. I was bitter towards those my family members who supported this antiquated law, and she believes that being a literate, and she was the daughter-in-law of a literate family, and all members were educated there also, then also they believe in such a pathetic law that if you don't have a son, then you will not get a right in family. So she was made her heart bitter towards her family member. In the sense, a kind of a disappointment was there in her heart towards her family members. In fourth paragraph, at this time I went to pay my respect to Gandhiji and say goodbye before leaving for America to take a part in conference. Now next, Vijaylaxmi Pandit was decided to go to the America for participating in a conference from the India. So she thought that here is a person who can give me some courage, who can give me a little bit of a motivation, that is Mahatma Gandhiji. She thought that before leaving for America, once I should meet Mahatma Gandhiji. So when she went to meet Mahatma Gandhiji, so she started having a conversation with Mahatma Gandhiji. After having a conversation, Gandhiji asked her, after a talk, he asked, have you made your peace with your family relatives? So when she was talking, so Gandhiji asked her a question that, have you made your peace with your relatives? It means that her in-laws, her family members. So Gandhiji asked her, before leaving for America, have you talked with your family members? So after listening this kind of a statement from the Mahatma Gandhi ji, she was totally amazed. So she says that I was amazed that he would take side against me. How can Gandhiji tells like that? How can Gandhiji say like that he is saying against of me? I have not quarreled with anyone. But when Gandhiji asked her a question, she replied that I have not quarreled with anyone. She said that I am not interested to fight with anyone. I am not interested in having an argument with anyone. So I replied, I have not quarreled with anyone. So quarreled means fighting or having an argument with somebody. And she said that, but I refuse to have anything to do with those who take advantage of an outward law to create a difficult and humiliating situation for me. And she says that those people who are taking advantage of this situation, where I'm having two daughters, I lost my husband, then also those people are not copying and supporting me. Even they are not asking me that how I am surviving, what I'm doing in my life. I don't want to talk to such a people who not showing a little bit of a concern, and they are humiliating me again and again by doing this kind of activities. She tells like that. Now in 5th paragraph, what Gandhiji will say to Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, we'll see here. Gandhiji looked out of the window for a moment, then he turned to me and smiled and said, you will go and say goodbye because courtesy and decency demands this. In India, we still attached importance to these things. So in a very simple way, very calm, composed and kindly way, Gandhiji says that whatever it may be, whatever the bitterness you have kept in your heart regarding your family members, he just looked out of the window for a moment. Then he turned to me. Gandhiji tells that when I told him everything like that, so Gandhiji looked out of the window for a minute and then he turned himself and said, you will go and say goodbye because courtesy and decency demands this. He says that we peoples are Indians and we are very kind and we believe in relationships very strongly. So you must go to your family members and you have to tell them goodbye because it is a courtesy, it's a tradition, because whenever we go, we have to tell bye to our loved ones. In India, we still attach to important these things and we Indian peoples are still attached with these all things. So next in 6th paragraph, what Vijaylaxmi Pandit tells is, no, I declare. She directly so says that no, I declare not even to please you will I go to those who wish to harm me. So she just said that I have already committed to myself that I am not going to say anything to my family members, and now you are telling just because of make you happy I will go to those people and I will talk to them and I will talk to anything regarding my plans. Then I will tell you for sure that I am not going to talk those people who tries to take advantages of my situation and who tries to harm me in any reason. So in 7th paragraph we will see what Gandhiji advised her. So he says that no one can harm you except yourself. What a beautiful line tells here Gandhiji. No one can harm you except of yourself, he said. Still smiling, Vijaylaxmi Pandit was in a very anger. She don't want to talk to her family members, but Gandhiji is not letting a single chance to convince her to meet her family members, and he said a very big statement, that a very big advice, that no one can harm you except of yourself, and still there was a smile on the face of Gandhiji. I see enough bitterness in your heart to cause you injuries unless you check it. So Gandhiji says that if you will not went to your family members, if you will not make a peace with your relatives, then it will remain in your heart, and already you have a lot of pain in your heart, and this will cause a more injuries for you internally. In 8th paragraph we will say, I remained silent, and he continued. So once Gandhiji started telling, once Gandhi started convincing to Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, she became totally silent, and Gandhiji started telling her continuously. What Gandhiji tells is, you are going to a new country because you are unhappy and want to escape. Can you escape from yourself? What Gandhiji says, I agree that you don't want to stay in India, you wanted to go to America for attending a conference. You can go wherever you wanted to go, you can go, but this is not the way of going. So Gandhiji directly says that you are not finding the solution of your problems, you are escaping from the problems. What he says, you are escaping from yourself. If you made a peace with your family relatives, it will give you a little bit of a calmness, it will give you a little bit of a compose, but you are not doing so. You are just running away from the problems. Will you find happiness outside when there is a bitterness in your heart? So children, this is a very important thing what Gandhiji told to Mrs. Pandit is, will you find happiness outside when there is a bitterness in your heart? So when we are sad from internally and we try to laugh outside, we can produce a fake laughter on our face, but we can't be happy from internally. So that similar advice Mahatma Gandhiji gave to Vijaylaxmi Pandit, that you wanted to go America, you can go, you wanted to go London, you can go, you wanted to go anywhere in the corner of the world, but these problems, this sorrow, this pain which is there in your heart, it will come along with you wherever you will go. Think over it. What it will, you can go anywhere you wanted, but the problems, that sadness, that pain will definitely come with you, along with you wherever you go. Think over it. Be a little humble. What if those peoples are not ready to give you a family share in a family property, whatever their ideology is, let them be like that, but you become a little humble. You have to be little kind, because you have lost a loved one. She said that recently you have lost loved one. Loved one is referred to her husband here. That is sorrow enough. You lost your husband, that sorrow is enough. But don't take more pain in your heart. Must you inflict further injury on yourself because you lack courage to cleanse your own heart? Because it will not provide you courage to do your further work for you are going. Now in next 9 paragraph, children, will see what conversation is going to be happen between Mahatma Gandhiji and Vijaylaxmi Pandit. Vijaylaxmi Pandit says that his words would not leave me. So when she heard this kind of all statement, when she heard this all kind of elements, aspects from the Mahatma Gandhiji, she tells that his words would not leave me. It means that one thought of Mahatma Gandhiji, that no one can harm you except of yourself, which will remain in her heart, which was remain in her mind. They gave me no peace. When she had a conversation with Gandhiji, so she was totally become kind of a vibrate from body. Internally she becomes a little bit vibrate, and she started thinking over the thoughts of Mahatma Gandhiji again and again and again. After some days of severe struggle with myself, I finally telephoned my brother-in-law. See what sudden change came into the Vijaylaxmi Pandit's attitude. Before she meeting to the Gandhiji, she was committed herself that she is not going to talk to her family members. But after having a conversation with Gandhiji, she changed her mind and she thought for a couple of days, and she came to the conclusion that she is going to talk to her family members, and she finally decided to telephone my brother-in-law. It means she is going to call her brother-in-law. I would like to see you and the family, I said before leaving. When she called to her brother-in-law, she directly said that before I leave to America, I wanted to meet you and I wanted to talk to you people. So now finally Vijaylaxmi Pandit decided to talk to her family members. So later what happens in 10th paragraph we'll see. I hadn't been with them 5 minutes before I sensed that my visit had brought a feeling of a relief to everyone. I told them of my plans and asked for their good wishes before starting on this new stage of my life. The effect on me was a miraculous. I felt as if a great burden had been lifted and I was free to be myself. So what a sudden change was happened in Vijaylaxmi Pandit's heart is she believed that she felt that when she entered or when she called to her brother-in-law and when she went to meet her brother-in-law and all the family members in their house, so she feels I had been with them for 5 minutes before I sensed my visit had brought a feeling of a relief to everyone. She says that when I entered in the house, when I saw everyone, by looking to the Mrs. Vijaylaxmi Pandit, there was a slight kind of a better feeling, better expression she observed on each and every family members of her. Because what she was thinking about her family members, that those peoples are not showing a little bit of a concern, those family members who was not giving a little bit of a care or a sense of a care. But when she met them, she realized that her family members still cares for her. The whatever the thought was there in her mind, that was just a misunderstanding. After her, when her husband was died, before when he was alive at that time also, and after the death of her husband also, her family members were still cares about her. She feels by looking into everyone's facial expression. When she becomes a little familiar, when she feels a little bit calm and composed, she told about her plans. That whatever her plans was, that she wanted to go to America, going to be participate into the conference. She told about her every plan and she asked for their good wishes before starting for this new stage of her life. She told that I am going to America and I am going to participate into the freedom struggle. So I am going to participate in that. So this effect on me was a miraculous, which Vijaylaxmi Pandit was never thought that this kind of a sudden feeling, this kind of a calmness, this kind of a relief she will get by meeting to her family members. That was a unexpectedly miraculous, or the miracle happened with her, that she felt very good from internally and externally. I felt as if a great burden had been lifted and I was free to be myself. She started feeling that a very huge kind of a thing, a very burden was there on her heart, which has been totally been lost now. She feeling totally relieved. After that 11th paragraph, what she tells, this small gesture was the beginning of a significant change in me. So she tells that if I won't meet my family members, or if I went to America without meeting my family members, as Gandhiji told, I am going to take a huge burden in my heart along with me. But Gandhiji has suggested me in a right way, and his idea has worked and it brought a significant change in her. A year and a half later, I was in New York as a leader of the Indian delegation to the United Nations. So after 1 year, she went to New York. She was there in New York and she was doing her job there from the favor of India. After that, important to us was India's complaint regarding the treatment of people of India origin in South Africa. So she was dealing with a certain problem. The Indian origin peoples who were there in South Africa, she was working for those people. Harsh things were said by the both the side. Some African peoples told something bad words about Indian peoples, and some Indian peoples were told bad words about the African peoples. So these kind of internal nationalistic problems were happening over there. So she was there to be clarify the all confusions, to making the situation a little bit stable. I resented the manner in which my opponents made personal attacks harmful to India's prestige. To mine, I stuck back with the sharp weapon. She stuck back with the same sharp weapon. So being an Indian, having an Indian blood in her veins, we Indian people are not going to be listened from anything from the anybody. So similarly, Vijaylaxmi Pandit also being and brought up in India, so she is also not going to listen anything from the other native peoples or foreign peoples. So this is what children's the feeling when she was there in India and when she went to the New York or America, how her attitude has been changes. So in today's session, we'll stop our video here. From the next 12 paragraph, we'll start on next video. I hope you understood. Thank you.